timing. But the people that got charged with the murder and everything, none of that ever established a link. So I think that one's a bit of a reach.
Well,
I think his father,
So there was a podcast that I listened to called Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, and they had a couple of guys who run a sports podcast for the How Stuff Works Network, which is where that podcast is through. And it was about sports conspiracies and controversies. And the big one that they talked about was Michael Jordan's gambling and his other vices, leading to his father being robbed by the people who robbed him have no affiliation with anyone, but they made in that podcast a very compelling argument, to me at least, for why it's possible that they were just people who were hired to handle someone else's dirty work. Did we lose?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's possible. I just haven't seen enough to link it satisfactorily in my view, and that's including the documentary and what I've seen. I'm not saying it's not possible. There's still obviously not a lot known, but it seemed like a stretch, and a lot of people were just going in on rumors at the time, which was obviously awful, but that part I just think they really put a shine on the positive parts and really just tried to put more of his spin on the negative parts.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to point out, did you notice how when Barack Obama was on, they had him labeled, Bulls fan, not president, not, was a community organizer from Chicago, not Illinois State, or not Illinois Senator, Bulls fan. Like that, I just thought that little thing was funny. But back to what, former Chicago resident, actually, not Bulls fan. It said former Chicago resident, which is hilarious. But one question that I have that they absolutely did not even address is Dennis Rodman coming to the Chicago Bulls from the Detroit Pistons. Rodman was on the bad boy Piston teams that were so physical, that walked off the court and did not shake Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant's hands. They didn't shake their hands. And yet they ask, how did Rodman fit in with the Bulls system? That's a completely different question. That's asking basketball play style, how does he fit in? And Scottie Pippen said like a hand in a glove. How was Dennis?
Definitely, yeah. They only talk about Isaiah Thomas's and Jordan's beef, and obviously, him and Rodman quashed it, obviously, but they don't even address that what kind of tensions might have been coming in. And I get it. Rodman is at least a character, shall we say? So
there should be 3 episodes about him.
There should have been a whole documentary just about Rodman, and I would have watched that.
Yeah, but seriously, that's there are things that they probably thought of and either thought, well, this is negative, we probably shouldn't talk about this, or they thought, this is insignificant, let's not talk about it. I disagree. I think the conversation that Jerry Krause had with the Bulls players, who were all visibly pissed off with the bad boy Pistons, how did that news get taken? Were they like, he's physical, he rebounds, he's a great defender, let bygones be bygones, get him here? Or was it like, nah, fuck this guy, we don't want him. Oh, he's coming anyway, I guess we'll have to live with it. Like what was that like? Because it seems like it should have been really awkward, but they didn't even address it. All right, so that's what the entire story, basically, if you didn't watch it, the entire story is about the Bulls drafting Michael Jordan, winning 3 championships, retiring, winning 3 more, end. So it left me with a lot to be desired, and left me with questions that I didn't exactly enjoy the series, because I didn't like the way it was done. But I want more. I want to know more. I want to see more. I feel like there are questions left unanswered that really should have been answered. And the next thing that I want to talk about is quite possibly the biggest, most difficult question that you're going to get about this topic. Is Michael Jordan the greatest of all time?
Certainly debatable. It's pretty much an impossible question. How are you going to compare him to someone playing in a different game? The game evolves. The game changes. How do you compare him to Wilt Chamberlain? How do you compare him to LeBron? How do they compare to Kobe? Because the game has changed so much in every decade seems to take a huge swing in a different direction. Now it's all about shooting. Curry wouldn't have even been a factor back then. Someone like Wilt Chamberlain was dominating when there wasn't a 3-point line. So I don't like that question because I think it's impossible. I think you have to say, are they the greatest of their era? And I think we can answer that with a yes with MJ. I think you can answer that with a yes with Will. But trying to compare them to each other, it's like more of a thought exercise.
You're right, and I agree. I am going to say that I do think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, not simply because of his skill set. There are players that have similar skill sets. LeBron James, the same thing. Like, he has an uncanny knack for getting to the basket at big times and all of that. But what you can compare is their mindset. Michael Jordan had the mindset of, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make my team better. And honestly, I just don't feel that LeBron James has the same mindset. I don't feel he has the same killer instinct that Michael Jordan does. Someone says something bad about LeBron James, he just complains. Someone says something bad about Michael Jordan, and that just fuels him. He said in the documentary that George Karl just walked past him at a restaurant when the Bulls were playing against the Sonics in the finals. So he took that as a slight, and that fueled him to just unleash holy hell upon the Seattle Supersonics. I don't think LeBron James has that same mindset. I think that killer instinct isn't there. I think that whole idea of, I'm going to push you just as hard as I push myself because I want you to be great. I feel like that's not LeBron James. LeBron James is a leader, absolutely. I don't think he's on the same level of leadership as Michael Jordan. That's why I think I can say with confidence that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time.
Right, because LeBron's smart enough to know that not everybody's going to be good like J.R. Smith.
Yeah. Good old J.R. Smith. Yes. So, comparing the
somebody up for vandalizing his truck or something.
Right. But comparing physical skill sets and whatnot doesn't make any sense because Michael Jordan does something completely different than Shaquille O'Neal did. They're not asked to do the same thing. They have different sizes, different abilities, so it's unfair if you're comparing just based on position. But I think, looking back at the history of the NBA, there is nobody as determined, nobody with that killer instinct, nobody that has that drive that Michael Jordan had to be the best. There was a quote in the documentary that I really, really liked. I don't remember who it was that said it, and I'm too lazy to go back and rewatch the whole series just to find one little quote. But someone said, Michael Jordan has an on-off switch, and he never turns it off. And I'm going to be honest, I don't remember watching Michael Jordan in the 90s because I didn't watch Michael Jordan in the 90s. I didn't get into basketball until 2001, 2002 when I was 11 or 12, and at that point, the Bulls dynasty was dead. Michael Jordan wasn't the same guy. Michael Jordan was the guy from Space Jam, the basketball player who's old. He wasn't Michael Jordan when I watched basketball, when I started watching basketball. So going back and watching this for me is educating me on things that I didn't know because I wasn't present mentally in basketball.
Great basketball. So I gotta say.
But
you missed out on the rivalry with the mailman.
Yeah, so I mean, like, as someone who enjoys the sport and I look back on the history and stuff, I can look and I can recognize that Karl Malone is great, that Charles Barkley is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, that Shaquille O'Neal, was maybe more dominant in Orlando in the early days of the Lakers than he was toward the end of the Lakers. I wasn't watching during Michael Jordan's prime. So watching this really was a history lesson for me and not nostalgia. Did you guys feel the same way? When did you start watching basketball?
Late 90s. 98, 97.
So around the time of Jordan's championship.
Yeah, I remember watching it in passing when Jordan was in the league, and I remember my mom was actually a big fan of Patrick Stewart.
We're I'm having a hard time hearing you, Dan O'Shea. You're very, very muffled.
Here's the
storm just rolled in. That's any better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. Let's answer this question, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more Michael Jordan. So, Dan O'Shea, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I watched it in passing in the late 90s, and then I didn't get into it really until high school and then especially college. So, later in the 2000s, when I really started watching. And then I did go back to watch some of the older games because, that was it when the Knicks were relevant.
With Latrell Sprewell and Allen Houston. Yeah, so So, Dan O'Shea, you and I are pretty much in the same boat. Dan Beebe, you caught the tail end of Michael Jordan. So, like I said, for me, I wasn't watching greatness when greatness was happening. I missed out on it. So you would think I'd be in the boat that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan because James was drafted